Coming off mic just to share that we will start back up with Ari in about 5 minutes. All right. If everyone can hear me, I wanted to get us back started and introduce Ari, who is our senior learning advocate here at GitHub and GitHub Learn. He's gonna tell like this workshop I'm so excited for because it's really, really cool what you can do now with skills exercises. And Ari is the master at this. So I will throw it over to you, Ari, to get us started for the afternoon.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Morgan. I appreciate it. It's built up now. But hope everyone enjoyed the earlier part of their day. PJ does a great job. I think you all saw that. I'm a big fan of him. And really taking a step further of what kind of PJ kicked off of different components and things you can do in GitHub, and showing you how you could possibly, as educators, create your own GitHub, your own GitHub skills or things that you can share with your students. As PJ indicated, before I get into my kind of presentation and into demos, he mentioned that this learn.github.com/skills has a lot of skills that we've created. They're kind of sorted in different areas. Like, obviously, you folks got a lot of that today from PJ, from your first day to your first week, and things you might do, like communicating in Markdown or GitHub Pages. And then you get into more advanced topics like GitHub Copilot, which a lot of folks are obviously very interested in, and how they can leverage that, not only for development, but for teachers of how they can use that for their syllabus and their curriculum that they develop every day. So Copilot comes in handy for that. We have a lot of good exercises here to choose from, stuff with automation using GitHub Actions, and even code security and analysis. So for you security, nerds that like to dive into that, we have something for you as well. But what I want to get into really is how we create these GitHub skills exercises. Again, I'm Ari Levigny. I'm a senior learning advocate, as Morgan mentioned, with GitHub. I'm on the GitHub Learn team. I do a lot of advocacy of not only our products, but our learning materials, our certifications and all that. We'll have a session on certification tomorrow as well. But GitHub Learning, this learn and our skills. We have, as I said, like we have these different areas of skills that you can learn how to use GitHub. And it's really what our kind of tagline is. We're learning GitHub within GitHub. So we're not leaving to go to a third party, whether it be an application or another system, to learn how to use GitHub. You're learning it right within GitHub. And we have a nice bunch of tricks behind the scenes using AI, but also using automation like actions to help you guide you through those exercises. And what I'm going to cover today is how maybe we create a custom skills exercise for you folks. We have the environment is kind of this exercise creator that I'm going to walk through. It's actually this nice repo that you see here. Obviously, PJ showed you how repos and what they look like. But again, we're going to be using something called a code space. So a code space is awesome because, as I don't know if PJ, I know he touched on it a little bit, but it's really a fully fledged development environment, and it's already consistent and works for that repo. So like our exercise creators customize to what we're doing here, and this can be reused, to create these exercises. And we'll take a look at that as well. I'll dive a little bit into that just to show you how that works. The other thing that we have is a nice structure of how we, a template of how we shape our exercises. So every exercise has like a theory at the beginning of each step. We have an overall step and then several activities in that step, and we can have as many as we want. Like some of our skills exercises may have 3, some may have 5 or 6. It all depends on, how much you want to cover, how detailed you want to go. So the template comes in handy because it's a good structured framework for that. And then the engine, which is kind of our automation, our reusable workflows that kind of do all the magic behind the scenes, and we'll look at that as well, is our exercise toolkit. Several members of our team have developed and have been enhancing this along the way, including myself. Besides just building the exercises as well, we wanted to build a toolkit and an environment that makes it easy for others like yourselves to create something custom that may be interesting. So let me get to the next slide. Yeah, we covered that. So the first thing that we usually do is we kind of architect an outline, and we use Copilot along with us. So AI is a part of everything we do. It doesn't replace us. It really just takes away some of the kind of, the human mistakes we make of maybe leaving something out or not accounting for something, and really kind of giving us a good starting point. I would say getting us 80% of the way there of what an outline would look like for an exercise, and then bootstrapping that draft, doing some refinements, testing it out, because we do grading. So what allows us to move through these exercises is that we have that action that runs in the background. So when the user or a student completes that task, they get confirmation, did I do it right? Did I meet all the requirements for that step and those activities in that step? And at the end of it, we publish that skill. And as you can see, it kind of flows back because there could be several iterations. We don't get it right the first time. Our motto here at GitHub is we ship to learn. So we iterate constantly on what we build. And I'm sure as you as teachers know that very well as you tweak your curriculum, and you make changes to things. That's very similar for you as well. Um, so so the primary skill, the theory is what kind of like grounds us in what our whole skills exercise is going to be about. What are the hands-on learning or activities we would do to get that practical information, and then the step transition, which the actions guides us through, and then we have grading along there that kind of validates that. Um, ensures, we create kind of these storylines too. We put our characters from GitHub like Mona or Ducky or Copilot kind of in there as users. Obviously, maybe at your school or where you're at, your education, you have a mascot. You may want to use that as your storyline. And that's what's great about this. You can make it whatever you want it to be. And there's just so much that you can do with it. Um, Kind of the secret weapon here is using Copilot and these agent commands, or I would say agent skills. And we're going to walk through that in the demo too. These are kind of our main ones that we have here. A little recommendation too is if you're looking to save cost, I would use Auto as your model usually, unless you think like you understand the models and you want a specific model. You don't have maybe a cost restriction as well. Obviously, certain models cost different amounts of credits, and keep that in mind. I use Auto a lot actually. There are some times when I'm building agents or I'm doing things where I want to specialize in, like I'll give an example. When I'm doing stuff for designing, I may use a Gemini model because it's just really better at designing. In fact, just to let you know, I created all of these slides using Notebook LM, and using Gemini as my model to do that. It's just a handy tool instead of having to dig through PowerPoint and make kind of. I think everyone's used to kind of those slide decks that you make, that are not as exciting. And I wanted to make, I like to make my slide decks a little bit more interesting and eye-catching, which I think these kind of execute on that. So every exercise has this kind of structure, and the exercise template has that, where we have kind of an overall README. And as PJ showed, when we copied that exercise over to our handle, there's some magic that happens in the background 20 seconds after it gets copied to your handle, your username, and all of a sudden you're ready to start that exercise and go through that issue. And each one of these exercises, the steps are basically markdown files. They describe what you need to do in each activity. They may have screenshots or stuff to show you like visually what you need to do. Sometimes people learn better that way than just words on a screen. I know I do. I'm more of a visual learner myself. And then the workflows is what does the grading. That's all the magic, the actions that happen in the background. And luckily we have several examples of that for you to choose from. Just making sure any questions. Just checking the Q&A too. Going to the bottom here. Don't see anything. I'll go back to the chat. Yeah, if you want to just put questions too as I go in the chat, feel free. Um, and then we have kind of like what I say, like Copilot gets us 80% of there. It's functional. It gets us kind of the hard stuff of like the consistency, making sure like the checking is there on the back end, and it generates success messages. But we really kind of build that storyline as humans, and we build that human touch. And as teachers and as educators, I'm sure that's something that's where your value add is that AI cannot replace. Strict asset paths. So we put our images in a certain location. As you'll notice, all of these are under that .github directory, which I know PJ walked through some of the .github stuff in a repository. Images have relative links, and they're linked into the steps. So when we copy that over, the image gets rendered as part of our action there too. Again, the toolkit in action, the exercise toolkit is where our reusable workflows or our GitHub actions are that do all of the magic. And a workflow, it highlights wait for workflow action. If there is a failure, it doesn't mean that student could go back and then figure out, what's broken because it'll indicate to them. We also try to automatically provide some troubleshooting tips too. If maybe a student is stuck or the end user is stuck, that's how we do that. And then our markdown templates, we're using some magic and some skills. We actually use some marketplace actions for that, and I'll walk through some of that. Don't worry, it's not that overwhelming. We've done a good job of building this exercise creator code space and environment to make it more easy. We are constantly iterating on it, and like we're looking at next steps of where maybe we can even have this as a overall plugin that we can use in Copilot CLI, if anyone's familiar with that, or a new Copilot app that's coming out as well. But right now, CodeSpace is a great environment to kind of get your feet wet and start using it. Experience fed back to educators so the education can see students are typically stumbling or doing well. Yeah, so a a teacher can look at that user's handle or their repo and they could see where they're stuck in the issue. They could definitely go in there and help them out and kind of maybe give them a hint live in class if they wanted to do that, besides what the student is getting shown in front of their screen as well. We tend to make, when you copy to your handle, you can make the repository public so the teacher or others can see that open source repository, or maybe it's on your internal network to your internal GitHub where they can see it as well. But definitely a teacher can overlook what a student is doing to make sure, or give them a hint to guide them correctly. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, so this phase 4 is kind of the testing and publishing. This is probably where I spend a lot of my time because I've maybe missed something, or maybe I want to tweak something a certain way, or maybe my check on the back end isn't checking all of the things that I wanted to, or it's maybe missed something. We tend to test for if files exist, if certain phrases or words are in a file. That's how we check things. It's not, I wouldn't say it's super strict, but it's not also, you can make it as strict as you want. And we also try to make sure that the user, as they're walking through, they understand that they get notifications. Okay, the actions are working and it's grading your work and it's giving you that information before you go to the next step. So this is kind of what we look as the modern developer, exercise developer is like. You plan intentionally. We bootstrap with AI. We leverage Copilot is what it's good for as much as possible. And then we refine as humans with empathy to make sure it really kind of has that human feel to it. And really, it has your personal touch as educators to your students and your curriculum that you're teaching in your classrooms. I think that's what it's at the end of the day. I will also, let me pop this link in though before I forget. For the, yeah, copy that. This is where like a nice shortcut to the exercise creator where I'm going to take you now. This is the repo itself. Feel free to read through this. You can open up a code space here. So if I was to actually do that to set up a new code space, which I already have one, as you can see, I think it probably, oh, it didn't list my old ones, but this is how you could create a new one. You would click create, and then when it would all said and done, magic, you would have something like this, which is a fully development environment, just like you're a developer. I know it may look a little daunting, but we have a lot of help from our agent skills and the Copilot cloud agent encoding agent. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I am allowed. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. So again, this is the same README. So the same README that you can look at a repository, um, you can also look in the code space here as well. Another trick that I think it should work, yeah. Um, Another cool thing, if you didn't want to look at a code space, but you just wanted to edit things in that kind of editor environment, I don't want to derail too much, but I think it's a cool thing. Um, should work. Maybe they stopped using it. Usually if you hit the period, let me see. Let's see if I refresh this. Maybe it's not going to work for me. That's okay. Yeah, for some reason, my period key is not working. Anyway, uh, so the other pieces of been using GitHub in my classes since 20, it made a massive difference. When template repos and GitHub Classroom came, it also boosted things immensely. Should we clone this repo before we use? Yeah, I would clone. I would basically, what you can do is you could come down here and build a code space. But if you just want to clone it, like you have been doing before, you can do that. Feel free to do that uh, as well. That's fine. Um, the exercise toolkit is where all those actions, those reusable workflows. There's good description in here of what they do, like starting an exercise, finding an exercise. We use here's some of our markdown templates and other, like this is a third party marketplace action that we use. Um, if you use the period key in the repo, that part of it, if you won't, you actually commit anything. Yeah, it won't do anything. It basically brings up an editor. I don't know. I had this problem the other day, and I don't know why it's not doing it because it always used to work for me hitting the period, which I thought was a cool thing. I don't know if there's something else going on with my keyboard or something. We'll save that for later. That's a task for me to figure out later on. Um, but now that we have this, remember I mentioned to you the code space and we kind of went there here, and this is the code space. Um, that is all defined of what we install right here in this config here, and you can feel free to look through it. Obviously, you don't have to generate one of these. You can use Copilot to help you generate one. That's actually what I usually do. Especially if I have a certain stack or something I want to use for my exercise. Um, okay, cool. Thanks, PJ. So yeah, so this is kind of what defines that. And then there's these little scripts, these shell scripts that run too, that kind of set things up for when we on create or post create, that set things up in the environment so that we have everything we need. And really what I love about code spaces is that I don't have to worry about installing things on my system, and your students don't have to worry about that. It's a really good environment to have consistent across the board. So you're not wasting time digging into those types of issues, wherever they may be, like, this is not running on my machine, or this script's not working, or, I don't have that installed. The code spaces really takes all of that out of the equation so you can concentrate on the learning that you want to achieve for your class. So that's that. Again, the GitHub stuff is here. And when we set that up here, um, we have the README here. But what I want to point out, it'll actually tell you to open up the workspace here when it pops up, and you can I recommend doing that. And what I did preemptively is I also cloned the toolkit to have it here with me. I didn't do the template, but if I want to do that, it's pretty simple. If you're on a Mac, it's Control Shift P. Sorry, it's Command Shift P. If you're on a Windows or a Linux machine, I think it's Control Shift P. And then I want to clone a repo. I've already I'm already logged into my GitHub account through this, which you can do. It'll ask you to sign in. You can do that actually right here. Like you could see, it's my GitHub handle, but it would ask you to log in if I was logged out here and I wasn't all set. And I have certain settings that I like synced up for my own personal, but you can take what's already part of the code space. You don't have to worry about that. Um, and then what I'll do is I'll clone a repo. I'm going to say skills, um, exercise template. And there it is. And it's going to ask me where to put it. And I don't want to put it there. I'm going to put it in one directory above. Um, yeah, right there. And I'm going to say add to workspace. So I'm not going to create a new workspace. It's going to be right in here. I'm going to just add it. And we should now see that gray turn to black, which means I think let's do a refresh, make sure that we have it. Interesting. That's how I did the there we go. Just took a minute. I think it was just pulling all of the contents down from the repo locally. Well, I shouldn't say locally because the code space is running in the cloud, but locally to that code space is probably the better way to say it. Um, and again, like it has a lot of setup already predefined for us. So if we were to actually open this README, this looks like just a skeleton of what our GitHub skills exercise would be like if we were to start from scratch. And it gives us a good starting point. It gives us some example, like what steps may look like, the theory sections, the activities, and really kind of lays out for us just the structure of what a GitHub skills exercise would look like. And again, we're doing this all within GitHub. So we can do the same things that PJ taught you about branching, merging, pull requests, all of that goodness you get here as part of that as well. And at the end, we'll have like a nice review, a review of what we've done. And that's what we typically do too. And what I'll do just to kind of drive it home a little bit more before we get even more deeper into this. And as you can see here, I've actually checked out some of our skills exercises, which I could show here. I think what I might do to make it a little bit easier is bring it up in the repos. So I'll go to one that I just created actually. Um, I created this agent orchestration one. And again, if we go to that .github directory, we have this agents and outline is part of, that's just stuff that I generated from my specific skills, but the steps in the workflows is what we care about. So again, if we were go to this step, this looks like instead of having that blank structure, here it is filled in where I'm using a code space here. I'm also using the Copilot CLI, so I have some commands that I set up. I have the different activities and prompts that I want to use to guide my end user, in your case, your students in your classroom as well. And then it just steps me through that each one of these we step through these, and at the end we'd have a nice review that says like, you did it, congratulations, this is what you've learned, this is what's next. Maybe you want to dive into GitHub code spaces with dev containers, or use the GitHub CLI, or look at other GitHub skills that we've created that we have open sourced. And then it's the workflows that do all the magic on the back end that, and they're all triggered on different things of basically pushes to the main branch, for example. This probably looks a little daunting, and I understand that. And this is where like the AI comes in handy big time. But I just wanted to show it to you that like this is the magic. Like as you see, each one of these has a step that kind of lines up with our markdown files to guide us through each one of those. Take a step back. Is the creating an entire course like Codio or something like that with content and practice? Um, honestly, I haven't used Codio in a long time, so I don't remember. But this is very much like hands-on learning and guided through an issue. Maybe we'll walk through one of them if maybe that's interesting to folks. We can even actually just walk through the Copilot one or something like that. If that would be helpful to folks. Uh, I'm gonna backtrack to our learn. Go back one more. There we go. So at this point now we have what we want. The cool thing that we have here is our little Copilot chat window. And I know some of you are working on getting your Copilot license as part of this. Um, in here, we have some cool things that Copilot uses for its context. As I say always with Copilot or any AI, the more context you give it, the better. Um, so in this case, we have several set of instructions that give kind of Copilot like this is what step content looks like and gives it guidance there. So when we're creating one, it knows like what a theory is, what activities are. And giving that information, the more you give it, the better. I think of it as more a way to provide applied learning exercises for a specific topic within a course, as opposed to creating the entire course. Yeah, that's a good description. Thanks, Morgan. And like we have one for the workflows too, maybe the test style too, if we wanted that. We have our outline instruction. The one that I love and I've been using and I developed these is the agent skills. If anyone's familiar with Claude or Claude skills, this is what this is. It's built into our Copilot as well, where we can create an exercise outline. And all these skills are, which was awesome about it, just like the instructions, they're just markdown files. They're just natural language that we are providing more context to Copilot, to our AI, to make sure it stays kind of on some guardrails, or maybe gears it in a direction that we want and doesn't go kind of in its own direction. Or, as you've noticed, when you provide more information, you get better output from your AI. Whether it's Copilot, Claude, Gemini, you name it, you get more out of it that way. I tend to also, whatever does come out as output, I'm sure you've heard this before too, but I trust but verify. I love what Copilot creates, but sometimes it doesn't always create the exact thing I want, and that's okay. That's what iteration's for. It definitely gets to be faster than me starting from scratch. And then we have each one of these is a skill. So there's always a skill.md file. Different time zone. Is there a link to previous sessions? Uh, um, I think they'll be recording videos and slides sent out. So if you missed it, you'll be able to catch up. Um, but this is like, again, we got that front matter that PJ talked about of creating the outline, what is involved in it, where, we even have our issue template skill outline that it's using as a reference. So we have that, the one that PJ shared with you earlier. And then we have all of these things and we can take advantage of them. So why don't we do that? I'm gonna just look at my notes here. I had a topic that I wanted to do um, for, let's see, let's create, yeah, we'll do that. So I'm gonna do the slash, which is very powerful here, and I'm gonna go to skills, and it's gonna pop up right here, and I have a list of what's in my project. Um, these are the ones that are part of my project itself, these four. Um, I also have this nice, I tend to use the CLI pretty heavily, the Copilot CLI. So I actually did that in here. I'm in my exercise creator, and I did a skills list that showed the same thing here. I'm a big CLI fan. I know some of folks, maybe the terminal CLI may be a little daunting, and by all means, don't use it. You can stay within the chat window. But I tend to use it pretty heavily, so I kind of have it always up here. I'll actually close this one. But if we go back to the skills, um, and then I want to create an exercise outline that opens it up. Um, Let me do create. Yeah, there we go. So that was just to show you the skills. This is the actual one I want. It's giving me already, like Copilot's already giving me a recommendation to define to kind of go down a path of either creating or refining one that I want. But I'm gonna copy and paste something that I kind of wrote down. Um, create create a project that results in, yeah. So I want to create a GitHub skills. Actually, we'll just say skills exercise. I don't want to say GitHub. skills exercise that shows students how to use GitHub pages to create um, a student portfolio. And maybe I want to add, I want this exercise to be, say, 3 steps with multiple I am the instructor, or let's say teacher, creating this skills exercise. I have auto set here. So in the chat window here, I have auto set, but I could choose other models. This is an example of kind of how many models I have access to. But again, you can see that 10% on the auto discount. There's 2 reasons why you get that discount. One, I say the main reason is because auto means it's putting it in where we have capacity available, the most capacity at that time. So the other good thing about that is that if you're looking for a specific model, maybe there's not enough capacity at that moment in time. So auto helps place you in a spot where you'll use a model that has enough capacity and it's automatically doing that for you. We have these different agent, ask, and plan mode. Maybe I want to, before I actually create the outline with agent mode, I could do a plan of that if I want. So let's try that. Let's do a plan, and I'm going to hit enter, and we'll see what Copilot returns for us. I can close that. Sure, let's start it now. MCP server multi-context protocol, model context protocol. Yep, I do want that. Thank you. That's just a way for the AI to talk to GitHub in an AI way instead of just like using commands. That's okay. We can even cancel that. That's fine. Finish authorization. Oh, I see it's doing a code. Sure. Let's see if it does it now. And I bet it didn't. So here we go. See if I can copy it that way and we can get the MCP cert. Boom. All right. Love it. Love it when it works, right, everybody? And let me sure I just have the chat up too. How you edit the files to create a custom skill. Sure. We will definitely do that. So we started this plan and we're using our outline and it's asking for like what I love about the planning mode is that it'll ask you some clarifying questions so it can give you the best plan possible. So let's do the beginner here. Let's say display code projects and accomplishments, or maybe you want to do a resume or a combined. Let's do resume. And let's do using templates. Configure custom. So many to choose from. Write content in Markdown. That's even better. Sure. I don't know if we should go enable GitHub page hosting. Yeah, we can do that. Let's just leave it at that. Actually, we'll do Jekyll also. And then I think that's all we need. And all right. 2 to 3 activities per step. And we're off and we're running. So I tend to use planning mode often. The plan mode is also great because it helps you use less tokens, allows you to plan efficient. Yeah, that's a great call out, Morgan. Thank you. I love the plan mode, especially when I don't know exactly what I want. Like I have a high level idea, or in this case, we had a very kind of broad context we gave it. And then it kind of really gave us some, choose your own adventure of where you want to go with it. And we were able to generate a really good plan. So it's going to go and do that. And then we could also then create that outline based on that. As you can see, it's still working. And there it's using our, as you can see, our agent skill. It's reading the skill, which is what we want because we've created, that's exactly why we created that agent skill for us. And now we'll get our comprehensive plan and it'll create a markdown for us. So let's review this together. Um, we create outline file from a template. So we'll have, and the name of this repo will be GitHub Pages Student Portfolio Outline. That will be the markdown file there. Define the recreate your student portfolio with GitHub Pages, brief intro, max 2 sentences, learning objectives, enable GitHub Pages and select theme, explain GitHub Pages, the Jekyll themes, domain structure, the username, your .github.io will be the domain where it's hosted, enabling the pages and settings and things like that. Step, build resume content with Markdown, and then customizing and expanding your portfolio. And at this point, we could start the implementation. We could start with autopilot. Um, I think, let's see, what do we want to do? And this is cool too here. You have option here with implementation if you're not using autopilot to either go right into the CLI and develop or have an agent in the cloud work on it too. But I think we want to do that here within our own exercise, but it shows you what's possible if you want to offload some of that. Um, helps you, yeah. But let's go with um, let's see where we generated this. I think we should have we put the plant. Um, yeah, let's open this in the editor. So let's do that first. Let's look at the plan in the editor, I think is even our best option. Just so we can see it here. And we can have Copilot initialize the repository for us. I know PJ spent a lot of time showing you how to, create repositories and do all of that, your 101. Copilot helps simplify a lot of that as well. Let's see what we got here. And there's our outline. So we just, let me see the path for this, if I could. I think it's just in the root of, where are you? Sure, let's just keep it and then we'll see where we are. Um, so at this point, we have our plan, and we obviously can tweak this outline if we want. Um, we can iterate on it if we so choose. Here's like a verification checklist. And if we want to, so let's say we wanted to use another agent skill to bootstrap, um, bootstrap from outline. And then I hit this plus to say like we were going to use this as our outline here. You can even save this as a prompt file if you want. That's another thing you can also store under .github. We actually used to use prompt files before agent skills came along, but it gives you a sense of that. Um, Bootstrap. Let's see. Let's bootstrap from our file. I was hoping it would just actually, yeah, I guess it's just in there. Use the plan outline that we generated. To make sure that works correctly. Let's change this up a little bit here. Um, I'm going to actually skip using that agent skill for us. Let me just stop this. I'm going to actually have it set up our repo for us first. So I'm in agent mode. I'm going to say create a new Tory under the repos directory. And we want to GitHub pages. Portfolio. And then what I'm going to do is once that's created, then we can use our Bootstrap. How long to create the exercise creator itself? It took us a while. Um, it took us a while of iterating the custom instructions, all of that. Obviously, you could take the template repo and you could take the exercise toolkit as well. The issue would be is you would have to make sure that you look through all of that code to make sure that your exercise, the checklists are there and all of that works as expected. I know before we had this environment, it took us an awful long time to create a GitHub skill. I would say it probably took us like 10 times as long just to get it where we wanted it. So here we got this directory starting to create, starting to fill in for us, which is awesome. This work files, sure, I guess. Just letting this thing cook to create our portfolio. Or any agent to create. Yeah. I mean, if there any follow-up question to that, if have you if you tried to create something similar to that and how long it might have taken you? I know what we do here, like we want it very structured, so that's why we kind of use this as our environment, but maybe you've had success using something else. All right, so now we have our start, our workflows. We're going to keep those. We have our steps. Um, it looks like there's issues, so that's okay. What we're going to have, what we can do too now is I'm going to give it even more context. Obviously, we have our plan here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this file. Save, yeah. Uh, Save, why are you not saving? I really want to put this in, put the outline. Let's see, save our, let me also check it, save our outline to our repo, GitHub pages, student portfolio. Repo, or is it repo? So let's see if it does that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can adjust it for anything you want. Um, a topic, obviously, like I just picked this topic of maybe you want to cover, building a resume with your students and how do they create that for a portfolio on the web? And that's a great way, like just one that kind of popped an idea that I had to show you folks. It's working to put that. And then we're going to do our, let's see. Did we put it in? Yep, there it is. Boom. Awesome. All right, we got our outline there. I'm going to close this and I'm not going to save it. And that's okay because we already have it saved here. Our outline, README, what we'll build, get a pages portfolio. It's all here. Fantastic. Let's see if we can let's go to our skills again. See what our skills, create exercise outline, review exercise. So let's do the bootstrap. We don't need to open that. I'll just do it here. Sometimes what I like to do too when I'm using Copilot is I like to do a fresh um, session. I see sometimes if you have too much in one window, you end up getting what's called like context rot. And that can be an issue. So let's bootstrap. And what I'll do too is I'm going to add context. Actually, let me close that. I'm going to say files and folders, and I'm going to select in our portfolio repo from our repo. Let's bootstrap the exercise. Bootstrap the exercise. We started to create and check with, and you know what I'll do too is I'll open up the outline as well, just so we have it. They do that right. There we go. Plus that, check with our outline. So we know we didn't leave anything out of our skills exercise. All right, and we'll go auto. There's other things too you can do down here too of like this is what other tools you can have installed, MCP servers, like here's a GitHub one. You can have other tools installed too. That's what that uh, little toggle is there. I know we got about 11 minutes left for my session. I know, I know you guys want PJ back, so I don't want to take up PJ's time. Um, but definitely wanted to show you what's possible here where we kind of spent some time just iterating on this and building an exercise for portfolio. Um, we'll also do, before we're done, we'll do the review just to check it and make sure it's, yes, you do need to practice this more. Yeah, if there's any questions too while I'm running through this or stuff's not clear, feel free to ask. I know it's a lot of information. We do have a lot of good docs out there on the repo itself. Um, and what we can do too is, um, don't think we'll have time today, but tomorrow I know, and I'm having a session not just talking about certification, but I have, yeah, you do have practice time coming up. Um, That's right, PJ. But tomorrow I will also take time besides covering the certification. I think the block of time I have, we'll be able to walk through a learning a GitHub skills exercises so you guys can see like what gets created and how it all works. And feel free to tonight if you have time after our sessions today that you want to walk through one of them that are available, even a basic one like the Git or GitHub one of intro, maybe test your skills of what PJ taught you today and you want to see what that looks like in a skill. By all means, please feel free. They're open source, they're free, they're for everyone to use. And if the exercise creator is a little bit daunting to you, you could always look at an existing skill and dismantle it any way you want and look through the code as well. I may be using each. It's not GitHub plugins. It's agent skills that are inside our exercise creator. So we're just leveraging a Copilot primitive called agent skills, which are there for tasks and that context, and building us a GitHub or a skills exercise in our case. So as you can see here, it went through and it looked at everything. Um, oh, my chair. Um, Workflows, um, README, and then we can keep that. And now if we want to do a review of this, oops, if I could type, that would help. Review. And again, I'm going to give it that context just to make sure. I'm going to give it that, but I'm also going to give it the repo itself that we have. I guess we're already there. So, oh, I guess because it's files open. Yeah. All right. That's fine. Um, review, view our exercise and make sure the workflows and checks are valid. And we have images in our, let's see if it creates some images for us too. Images. Um, I guess actually it did. No. Images in our .github images directory to show how to enable GitHub pages in GitHub. Let's do that. This is Copilot inside a code space, but if you look at this code space and if you've ever used VS Code, they are identical. That's what a code space is. The code space is just running in the cloud and not locally on your machine. You could also run this dev container in a container on your local machine if you want to. That's also a possibility. I don't want to get into all of those technical details, but you could definitely you could definitely do that. So let's see what it's going to create for us now. Again, I could provide even more context and give it more information. Um, but obviously for the sake of time, I usually can get a draft out of a good GitHub skills exercise or an exercise, you know, kind of hacking away on it, using this environment in about, I would say actually with CLI, I'm a bit faster, but I don't want to overwhelm people with the CLI. I know there will be a session on that. I think tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. But I can usually get one up and running and pretty polished in a couple hours. Um, sometimes it takes a little bit more iteration because of certain checks or things like that, but it used to take me a whole lot longer to do that. It would take me a couple weeks to get something fine-tuned, especially something that if I want to share with a peer to review that was ready, it would take a lot longer to do that. All right, let's see what we're doing. All right, we're editing. I'm going to close this. While that's running too, and I have the CLI open, I'm going to go to, oh, we're there. Let's go up one. Repos and our GitHub Pages portfolio right there. Yes. I'm actually, tell me about what this skills exercise. So while I'm actually doing the Copilot chat and that's running, I'm also going to ask it here on the CLI to tell me about my exercise. Yeah, the process would be like we generate that outline. So using that slash create outline. Here, what I'll do is to make it a little bit clearer for you, we'll show you the files here. Where is it? Oh, it's up above. That's why. Um, so I start with this create exercise outline. Then I go to the bootstrap and then we're in the review process now. And then I do the publish. Um, the publish just kind of gets it ready. And obviously I created all of this stuff locally, so I haven't even pushed this up to a repo yet, but we can have Copilot do that automatically, or you can do it with the Git commands as well, if that's easier for you or you're more comfortable with that. At this point, I use Copilot to just do that for me because it's much easier and faster. Let's see what files it changed. So we made updates to our markdown files. I don't see any images produced yet. I was hoping we would get some images. I have done that before where maybe if we used a different model, it would do that. But I've gotten it where I didn't have a screenshot of something that I was doing, and then it was able to do that automatically and generate an image that looks spot on to what GitHub shows in its UI. So pretty impressive. I hope that answered your sure I will use a Copilot, but want to follow your thinking process. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, you could take if you were doing this without Copilot or without our skills or instructions or any of the AI stuff, you could take the exercise template um, and kind of use this as your starting point. You have the directories that you need, the steps and the workflows. And then you could kind of modify that to be what you want. Again, these are all markdown files, so it's just plain natural language. So you could do that yourself. It probably would take you a little bit longer to write all of that yourself, the theory and the steps for your curriculum or your exercise that you want to have students run through. But by all means, if you rather do it that way, have that control over it. I understand. We actually have even more control. If we could have even done it even easier, and I didn't want to short circuit all of it, is we could have said when we got the plan, do autopilot instead of the implement. We could have done autopilot and it would have gone through and done the whole thing for us. I like to sometimes just do it myself and kind of check in what it's doing and look at what's been created always create it itself beginning to end. Um, by all means, you can do that. I tend to use autopilot when I want to just let something like I want it to create something and I don't have any guardrails or boundaries of what I want to create. But I think when you're creating these skills exercises, it makes more sense to kind of have that control since you know you're the human, like I said before, you kind of know what the theory is that you're trying to get across, and it has that more human element to it. Uh, sure. Create. We are at 7:30. I don't want to hold PJ up. Um, I'm curious how the exercise creator can help with my use case. Let's say I want to teach a linear algebra concept like SVD and ask for a modern day application for that. Can demonstrate was able to do that, or will I need to create a skill for that? Um, you could use this for that. I assume you would have some type of like example of how to get to an algebra formula, or something like that, and you could write that in Markdown. And you may have already some of the formula filled out for your students in an activity, and they can copy and paste that, and then test it out. Maybe they want to you want to use AI with that, maybe you don't, but it would give them a reference point of like, here's the first activity, and then your check would be, did they get the formula right, or did they get the solution to the formula right? That would be the check. So bringing that to something that's not GitHub related, that's how I would take that approach. You could also build a skill for that too. If you understand like a certain thing you want to teach and that's the task, you could build a skill for that outside of this, maybe in the repo itself, and and use the skill that way too. Really, you have a lot of different options and flexibility, so you're not tied to anything. I know some folks may not want to use AI, so you could develop your own steps, activities, and follow that. I guess however you would be teaching it today or giving that information. Um, in a digital format in a Google Classroom or something like that, for example, you could have that, and then the check would then go validate that they got the formula right or they got the solution right, would be I guess, my explanation there. Does that make sense? All right. Page set. Oh, we did get an image. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's the exercise template. Let me come. Yeah. Oh, open in standard. Okay, that's okay. We can't look at it here, but we did create, it did actually generate an image for the page settings. Um, we didn't check this in anywhere. Um, I think should I keep going or pass it over to PJ? Are you ready, PJ? You want me to keep driving?
Uh, Hi. I don't know that I've ever been truly ready for anything in my life, but it is 4:30. I think Morgan might be the one who's going to take us into this because I think there was some talk of areas that people could go, like breakout rooms or something like that. So I think maybe Morgan would
Okay.
need to come back and sort of guide us. But this next few hours is for you to just practice and do work, and whether that's on what Ari was talking about, which thank you, Ari, congratulations, great job. Super
You.
great stuff. So whether it's what Ari was doing or what I was doing, or if you want to look at some skills that neither of us talked about, that's what this time is for. But here's Morgan with more information.
Hi, y'all. Thank you, Ari, for this presentation. I screen grabbed a bunch of folks just so I can show them back to you to be like, this was amazing. I love this session. So rest assured, there does not need to be competition between you and PJ. You're both wonderful. I'm just kidding. So yeah, this was an awesome session. Thank you so much. What we're going to do now, everyone, is we have the option for breakout rooms. So I was going to do a couple of breakout rooms just so we could work together. in a few different ways. And so the different breakout rooms could also work like a little bit closely on some of the stuff that they'd like to do. So for folks who want to dive a little bit more into or go back to some of the stuff that PJ was doing today in 101 and 102, you're going to stay here actually. So you're going to stay here. No need to leave if you have questions about some of the stuff we were doing earlier in the day. I'm going to create a breakout room, and we have Phoebe Quincy, who's on our team. She's senior program manager. Phoebe oversees our campus program, and some of our events and things like that. And we're going to do a breakout room with Phoebe, and Phoebe's going to answer any of those questions you might have. So if you have questions about, how, GitHub Enterprise could be available and useful for institutions at the institution and school level, that's really the person to ask those questions of. And then I know my video's not on. You can't see me. I'm so sorry. Now you can see me. And then we have a third breakout room where we can help you troubleshoot with verification. If you have any questions about those types of things. So troubleshooting with getting your GitHub account actually, approved. If there's some manual approval that we need to do to make sure that your verification goes through, if your application is being a little tricky, we'll have a breakout room for that as well. So again, stay here, just right here if you'd like to continue hanging out with PJ. I'm not sure how long, Ari, how long do we have you for?
I can hang out a little bit longer if
Okay.
if people have questions and stuff, sure.
Let's stay here as well. So if PJ and Ari, you'll stay in this room, and I'll come up with a couple of other breakout rooms, and I will name them so you'll know what they are for. And so if you'd like to join either of those breakout rooms to ask those other questions, you're welcome to do that. And you can also just work on things and show folks what you're working on as well. So this type of time we'll have at the end of every day for the next couple of days, few days as well. And so we can always go back to and troubleshoot and work on some of the things that we learned earlier in the day. So I will do that and be on the lookout for the side for those breakout rooms. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. We're waiting for our DoorDash to arrive. That's great. Um, I mean, I'm happy to walk through a GitHub skill if someone wants me to do that, or PJ already put them out there.
Oh, I just linked to all of them. Pick one, work on it, have some fun, watch it refresh. This is the work on your own section. Let's see, I do see someone has a hand up, Lemke, but unfortunately, we don't have the ability for y'all to come off of mute and speak in this room. So any questions have to go either in the chat or the Q&A so we can answer them.
This is our, that was a misclick. Okie dokie. It happens to the best of us. This is I might just walk through this, and obviously you folks are welcome to do whatever skill you want to do. The flow is very similar, just you're learning different things. But this is one we did actually for people who are not familiar with Copilot. I think it's a really good intro to Copilot. Alec on our team developed it. And again, you can just copy it I like to right click and just open it up separately. It's going to give you some information here to create the repository. It's basically copying a template of that exercise. And in this case, I'm going to say the owner, but you could make, if you have an org or something else, you can put it in another location, but I'm going to use my handle. It also puts this nice little dash, the scales dash in front of the name, so you know it's different as well. I'm going to keep it public. You could make it private, but I like showing my work to others. And like someone brought up earlier, as students, if you want to see your students' work, it's much easier to see if it's publicly available. And then it'll take some time to just generate the repo. As PJ said before, it'll take some time for the actions. If you want to see what the actions are doing in the background, this is what it's going on. The magic behind the wizard behind the curtain here is really setting us up, disabling our other workflows, changing the README around, and then putting the step content in there. So now if we were to go back to here, boom, as PJ showed before, we're ready to start the exercise, and the flowers are still standing, as Bill Murray said in Ghostbusters. One of my favorite quotes.
Still standing. Cats and dogs living
Living
together.
together, mass hysteria. So this then leads you to this issue, and it's all issue guidance. So the thing we were doing, we were creating one of these. This is how, we created it. It's a nice little story about an app that is at Mergington High School. Cool little names here that we put in there to make it fun and exciting. Again, that human touch that is not just AI generated. But it talks about the theory behind it, what inline suggestions are, inline chat, what ask mode is, agent mode, and the plan agent as well, which we actually got to use in our last session. I like using the plan mode a lot just because if I'm not sure what I want to build, it helps me kind of narrow things down, like I told you. And again, we have a code space. So I will right click on that. I'm going to open that in another window, and do create code space. We'll let that spin up and I will make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. This just talks about that GitHub Copilot's installed. We have a Python extension here as well. That's part of this code space. The different modes, which we saw earlier. We used, this is a model that actually is, I think, deprecated at this point. So please ignore the old stale screenshot. But then we can have these prompts that we can just put in the Copilot chat window. We're also going to run the app so we can see this nice little website we had at the top here. We're going to mess around with that. And yeah, so let's see. Let's see if our code space is ready. It's still coming up. It does take a bit to build. It's not immediate, but luckily once it's up, you can use it. Even if sometimes you have to restart your code space because it will if you don't, if you kind of leave it for a while, it's like your screen, it goes to sleep, your code space goes to sleep, and you can just restart it again, and voila, you're back in your environment as if you were before. It's really cool too. Like if you're not on your computer and you want to access an environment, it's a great way to do that. Looks like we're almost ready to go. Just seeing the opening remote, waiting for that to be done. Looks like we're getting there. A terminal. It's installing all of our extensions that we need. And we should have access to, that's how I know it's not ready, because you don't have all of them in here yet. So it's just the cloud agent. I should say agent mode. Sorry, not cloud agent, agent mode. You can use this to configure custom agents too if you want to create your own. You can use Copilot to create your instructions, So all of the stuff that I was doing from the instructions, you can use Copilot to build any one of those agent skills, agents, all the above. I'm going to sync my settings too and close that. All right. Now I think we're so close. Okay, we have agent plan and yeah, looks like we're up and running now. Almost, almost. They're a little, I guess we're just installing the rest of the extensions. I just want to make sure we're fully up before we start this. But if we're going to run this as this instructions indicate here, before we do that though, we can actually do this in ask mode. So see how it's specifying ask mode. We can come down here. We'll switch to ask. We didn't do that in the last session. We only used plan and agent mode. But we can just say, please briefly explain the structure of this project. What should I do to run it? It'll look through all the contents of the repo to give us that information. Again, I left my model on auto.
Auto really does kind of get the job done. The only time I ever pick a specific model is if I know like which one I've used before for something, but like auto mode really is plenty.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to hit this play button. We already, this config is actually loaded. If anyone wanted to see it, this is what actually is running our app right here. All the magic. We're going to allow. And now we already are able to, it's running. And now we should see our nice little Mergington High School extracurricular activities. And it's got some stuff in there. This is great, but we want to iterate on this and we're going to use Copilot to do that. We could look at the ports too, if you were interested in that. The ports just shows you like where we just opened up that little pop-up. This is what takes us to this anyway, just in case you wanted to know what that was. And now we're ready. So we're going to use something now in the command line. So you can use Copilot in the chat window. You can use it in the editor. You can also use it in the terminal as well. Actually, what I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier is I'm going to open up terminal and editor. I just like the way that it looks. It just feels better. And I'm going to hit Command I. I'm on a Mac, but if you're on a Windows or Linux machine, you would hit Control I. And then I'm going to say, hey, Copilot, how can I create a publisher branch? And I want it to be named this because right now we are on the main branch, which you see here. But now I'm going to say it's going to give me the command. I could run that in a terminal or I could just click run here. And now, as you can see, it switched us to the branch that we wanted to create and publish. And now we're doing all our work there and not on the main branch of the repository. So we've done that. At this point, again, this is the magic of the actions that run in the background. It checked that our branch was created, and it checked us, and then now it's ready to give us, it said nice work, and we're ready to go to the next step. So this is kind of the output if the other end of us creating our own exercise of what it would look like of guiding us through these steps and activities. And if you wanted to see too a little peek behind the curtain again, this is the magic that runs in the background that finds the issue. It checks our work and then posts the next step. And all of that is pretty boilerplate actions. It's just the checks are specific to our exercise here. I'll go back to our issue and go down to our next step. So now we're going to ask mode, ask the following. Code-based students are able to register twice for activities. Where would this bug come from? So let's do that. I'm going to clear my context here, my session. I'm going to stay in ask mode, and I'm using code. That hash code base means everything within all of the code here that's available. It's going to look at all of it. Sorry, just checking my watch. So it's going to look through our code, find where that the activities can get registered twice. And the other thing, if you notice, like we did auto, but it actually showed us that we used this model and we used this many credits. If anyone was interested in that specifics. Um, so at this point, we're going to open up. We know that it's in this area. It found it here. Actually, if we go to this, it's going to take us pinpoint the line where it is in the sign up activity. So it found the bug for us and we can go directly there. Only checks activity exists. Secondary contributor for the UI, the form subject handler, again, gives us points in the file for the JavaScript. And but really we care about this Python file itself from the first thing that was found. Sign activity, enter the below comment and press enter. As you can see, it has a nice little visual here. So this is another great part of, let me just make sure I have in the right spot. Yeah, get the specific activity. So I'm going to hit, I'm in my file, I'm editing. I'm going to type that and then magic. It is going to fix that for us just based on the comment. And that's pretty slick, right? So now if we try to register, it's actually even going to add, it's going to recommend other stuff, but we're not going to put that in right now. As you can see, though, Copilot is always willing to put up that ghost text is what it's called to kind of fill you in on what you may want to put in next. You can hit escape to not use it, which is what I just did, or tab to say, yes, I do want to accept that change. So that's your accept and reject kind of mechanism within the editor itself. Yeah, code completion for the win. Um, and then we hit tab. This kind of, we also kind of show you, you could do this in your exercise. It shows you what it would look like, which is very similar to what we have here. And then we could have Copilot put some sample data in for us too. So we can highlight the activities. Um, Control I. Yes, perfect. So I'm going to go up to where we actually have the activities listed, where we have this chess club, programming class, gym class, all this fun stuff. I'm going to uh, basically come to here where my activities are, or you could go the line and below, either way. I'll go here. And I'm going to hit that again, either Control I on Windows or Linux. On my Mac, I'm hitting Command I, and I'm going to say, add two more sports related activities, two more artistic activities, and two more intellectual activities. So now we should see that activity section explode with some new ones that we want. So now we have basketball team, tennis club, art studio, drama club, debate team, science club. And if we're happy with that, we can accept it, or we could undo that if we were not happy with that. And you can also toggle the diff as well. So we'll accept those at this point. Oops. See what happened where we went. All right, we did that. We did that thing was huge. So we added two more activities. And now we're ready to submit our work that we just did. So we edited this file. You can see, as PJ mentioned, right? Like we've made changes to this branch. the accelerate with Copilot that we just created in the last step. We're going to now hit the plus to add this for commit. I will be honest with you folks, and I don't know about PJ, but I do not write a lot of my own commit messages anymore or my own pull request summaries anymore. I like that Copilot can do it for me, and it will generate, add extracurricular activities and sign up validation to the API. Maybe you want to add more than that. You always can add that. You have total control to edit that. I'm going to commit that and then sync those changes to that accelerate with Copilot branch. So we're not on the main branch. We are on that other branch that we started with step one. So let's see all right, we did it. Mona is happy with us. We added our new activities. We found 9 activities. So it's checking, again, that's a check for one of your skills exercises would be how many activities you created. It would check that number for you. Let's move down to step 3. And now we get into agent mode. Copilot agent mode is the next evolution. I love these tables that Alec put in here. Really describes, the tool use, the context gathering, really breaks it down for you what agent mode does, its autonomy and planning. You can read more about MCP servers. We kind of covered that very briefly, a lot to go over, but we're going to switch to agent mode. And we're going to open up these related files that are all UI or visual front end files for us. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to again clear my context here. I'm not going to open that. And then I'm going to come back to my files and I'm going to look at the source static and open up this file, and this file. These are the 3 files that we're interested according to what we're being told here. We're also going to make sure we are in agent mode before I proceed and make a mistake. I'm going to keep it on auto again. You can also add context button to provide sources of context. We did open those files. So what we could do is a little trick is hit the plus symbol and say open editors, which means it automatically opened up added all the files for my context that Copilot will look at when creating that. I'm sorry, when using that for generating anything in agent mode. So now I say, please edit the activity cards to add participants section. It will show what participants are already signed up for what activity. So let's look at our website right now. Looks the same. Let's now prompt Copilot with that information. We're on auto, we're using agent mode, and we'll go for it. This will be, Alec did a great job here too, as well, of showing that like the editing of these files live and then, keeping them, the different areas where you may want to keep them. So if we come back to here, again, this should look pretty similar to what Alec showed us in that screenshot. Some changes to the JavaScript for the participants information. Again, you can also see which files were touched there as well. And I think that before we simply accept the changes, please check the website again and verify. So before we keep them, that's a great tip. Now, if we look at this, you can see now it looks a little bit different than what we had before. We have the activities and some details, the schedules, how many spots of the different cards too. If you also wanted to restart the website, we did hit that play here that starts it. If you want to, it has this little kind of pause, restart, stop. We could restart the whole website that way too. if you wanted to, and you can see it kind of working in the background here. Let me minimize that. And we can open it up again. There we go. I was waiting for that. So we didn't keep the files, but we will now because I think it has what we want. The refresh didn't work, so we restarted the website. And now you can see the participants listed below, just the general activities, the spots and so on, and the sign up. So now you have a little bit more information in the cards, which is what we wanted. Excuse me. So now we're going to click Tools. Let's experiment with some more open-ended requests. Please add a delete icon next to, excuse me. Yeah, if we wanted to change, like I said, the tool sets, that icon's new, different looking as well. Instead of being the wrench, it looks like this. We could specify different tools if we want. I'm going to clear the context again. Excuse me. Code base, please add it. So we're going to paste that in. And we can unregister someone. Have some water.
Water is very important when you're talking as much as we are.
Yep. Got to stay hydrated. Safety first, kids. All right. So I'm going to close these files since there were no UI changes. But as you can see too, maybe it did actually, sorry, it has to change UI as well besides the Python file. You know that these files have changed too because these little dots here too, but you can see too your list of files that have been updated. File stacks after adding unregistered endpoint. Now we can skip that. Execute runs untrusted code. I guess we can. If you don't have like allow all or the default approvals to, you can see these different settings here too. The default approvals means it's going to ask you, bypass approvals, all tools can call, and autopilot means you'll, as we like to say, you can just let it cook, and it will just do, it'll fry up and make you a meal at the end of the day when you're all done. So let's look at the files that we changed before we do anything. So we added this delete function in the Python file to do that. We changed the style to here. We changed some padding. List style is new. We removed the padding left of 20 pixels. And the JavaScript also changed for activities and mapping them. Let's keep everything. I have confidence in Alec that he did the right thing. But maybe there's not. Maybe there's actually a bug. When a person is registered, the page must be refreshed. So let's first experiment with this feature before we do that. So now if we want to delete Michael, it actually did do the right thing. So there isn't a bug there. So we'll skip that. I think that used to be the case at one point when Alec originally did this exercise. That may be an issue, a bug for Alec that I'll have to submit or fix for him, or we can have Copilot do it for us. But that did work as we would expect. We could always even prompt it if we wanted to, but I think we're good with what's there. And then we go back again to our little. This little fork here is our little connection to our pushing things, committing and pushing up to a branch. And then eventually creating a pull request is what you'd want to do, which we'll get to as well. And then we're going to add all these. Again, I'm going to have Copilot generate a commit message, push that up, sync the changes, and we'll see Mona roll the dice. Let's see what Mona tells us. What we
This
did
is
right or
me
wrong.
giving good
No,
vibes.
no whammies, big bucks. Press your luck. Stop.
And stop. Come on, Mona, I believe in you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mona.
Ooh, hey.
Hey. So I think we're coming to almost the end of this. Oops. Um, all right, we're up to plan mode now, which we've already done. This is our last step, I believe. We're going to switch to this, and we are going to say, I want to add a backend fast API test in a separate test directory. And you can refine the plan, provide additional details in the following follow-up prompts, test patterns. Yeah, so I like to use PyTest, so I'll probably um, let's start with this one. So I again will clear my contact session here. I will switch to plan mode. I'll close all the files that we have open. And now I will, let me also go back to the Explorer so you can see what gets created. The magic is happening. Little awesome. We should see a start implementation at the end, which is what we have. Um, wonder, this is also a little bit old because we didn't have the autopilot, which is brand new and kind of still experimental. Um, plan to agent mode. Yeah, we should see that happen. We'll take the default that's listed here, but you could do autopilot again if you wanted to. But let's let it do its thing. As you can see, it did switch from plan to agent mode. Again, that's all like asking me these questions for each one. I'm going to say uh, allow in this workspace and let it do its thing. It's actually, you can see actually in the command line here in the terminal what it's doing. Hard to read just because it's small, but also like there's a lot going on. And it updated our test config. So there's um, our Python initialization. Python needs a requirements of what things to install. So we already had that. We added the PyTest as part of it. It's changed 7 files. So it's created the tests, which are all in this. We said we want a separate test directory. So it's implementing that from our plan as well. For our activities, our app, our sign up, our unregister. We will allow all of it. What could possibly go wrong?
I gotta say, like, knowing how non-deterministic generative AI is, it's pretty cool that y'all have done this this particular skill like this well. Like it seems to really run along the kind of the way expected, which is pretty cool to be doing with AI. So congratulations. I think this is great.
Yeah, all credit goes to Alec on this one. He really did a good job. I mean, I think what it goes back to is that like what you're prompting and the context is what makes it kind of less generative and more deterministic or probabilistic of what you want to get at the end of the day. So that helps out a ton. Let's see if we get this. Yes, awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously some screenshots are old and this too of having the start implementation or letting it go on autopilot, that's new. So those are all updates we can make, but the exercise itself still works as desired, which is great. Alec is asleep right now in in Poland right now, so hopefully he hears us.
That's right. He's woken up from his slumber. He's
He's
talking
like,
about me.
so
Someone's praising me.
someone's doing my GitHub skills exercise that I created.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna keep that. We're good with that. Um, we got all the tests passing. They were all green. In fact, if we want to do that, let's do that. Let's um, run all the tests and show me the feedback here. Let's see if that works. I'm just curious. I think it will. Come on, you just ran it. Yeah, I think what I love about Agent Mode 2 is just it's self-healing. Like, oh, I did that wrong. Let me fix that for you. A test passed, one warning, total time 0.06 seconds. Can you run again and give more detail? There we go. That's pretty awesome. So instead of having all the stuff down here in the terminal that's hard to read, we can get that right back here and show us that all our tests passed for us, which is awesome. That is not in the skills exercise, but I like showing that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty cool. So now we're ready to do our commit and push again. We have everything we need. Got all our tests, our addition to the requirements for Python, and our initialization file for Python as well. Now I think we're ready for a pull request, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. I've not run through this exercise in a very long time, so it's good to see it still holds up. Wait, do we have to do? Oh, there we go. Okay, passed. Will we be doing a pull request? Again, the actions are running in the background, so if we want to see what those look like, it's ready to post our next thing, and we should be there now. All right, we're ready for our last step is the pull request, and then I'm going to hand her over to PJ to take over. Since it's getting late, I'm on the East Coast, so getting a little late for me, but I enjoyed doing this with you folks. I hope it was useful for you. So let's create our pull request. We will come to I'm going to dupe this here. I'll go to code. As you can see, it already knows that there's a difference between our main branch because we've made changes in this other accelerate with Copilot. We can compare it with main. Again, I like to use Copilot to generate my pull request summaries. And I know this looks kind of like really weird markdown and hard to read, but if you do a preview, this is pretty cool. So it shows you, tells us everything we did in this exercise from the branch that we created, the styling changes, the test configuration, the backend enhancement for the API, the activities we added, the bug fixes, the duplication of activities. And so you could see everything that we did. We could also request Copilot to review that for us if we want. And then we can go and create it. We can see all of our commits here too. So we had those all of those steps. The first step was really just creating the branch. But then we had the 3 steps where we did commits for, and that's what these are. We could look at what those specific changes are if we wanted to. It would show the diffs just for each one of those. I think PJ, you already kind of walked through this, right? Of this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like how to go through the PR and what
Yeah.
you see.
The good stuff, the goodness that's in the PR. If you want to see Copilot while it's reviewing it too, you can go look at that session and see the live review of it too. Um, it's pretty cool. It uses our GitHub MCP server, but because it has a visual front end to it, it's using the Playwright too, I think, to make sure everything is working on the front end as well. Model context protocol for the win.
That Playwright thing is amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Playwright was until the MCP got released, but like it's cool, man. Letting an agent like see a website is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I remember how painful it used to be to like test UIs and stuff, and those days are finally long gone. I forgot what it was called that they used to use. Oh, the name escapes me. It's so long ago. That's how old I am. As you see too, like it's in this agent tab too. You can go to the agent tab. So, um, we have our pull request that we created. Eventually, the pull request will come up. The system is slow.
I definitely spend a lot of time watching output from Copilot nowadays.
Yeah. You're like, oh, that's how that works. That's that's how if I was doing that myself, it would work.
Yeah. If I were a really smart guy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and you can look at each one of these too to see like details on what it's testing and doing along the way. Man, my pull request is taking a while here to get back to. That blue bar is working very slowly. I wonder. So it did a review here. That should be finalized. If I can get back to my pull request, that would be fantastic. I'm just gonna let it get to the end of the blue bar. Must be slow.
It's just like me. It's the end of the day on Wednesday. Like I'm moving a little slower right now for sure.
Yeah, and you get notified too in your notifications if you have them on of the review as well. All right, we're almost there. Come on. Just a little bit more. Oh my word. What is going on? Let's go back to code. Code window doesn't seem to mind. I guess I had to be off of the agent panel.
That's what it is. It's like I won't show you until you leave, man.
Uh, um, yeah, so it doesn't, yeah, our agent session. So if we go back to pull requests, I'm sure if I know Copilot, it always has suggestions. And obviously you could commit these if you wanted to or resolve them. I've never had a case where Copilot just said everything is just fine. You did it exactly perfectly, even when I'm using Copilot. So,
Yep.
and the reason for that is it's using a different model to review and is going to check things differently and have a different perspective. So it feels like, well, you should do it this way. And obviously, this is only one thing that it found, which is actually not bad. You could have Copilot with an agent and the cloud agent go off and work on that, or you could commit what it's already giving you. We can do that. I don't mind taking its suggestion. What could possibly go wrong? We already finished the exercise, really. Um, and now we're ready to merge, or we could add reviewers. I could add PJ as a reviewer. You could have
Please
also
don't.
Copilot re-review. What's that?
Please don't. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Um, and yeah, and in the file side, as PJ showed you earlier, like this is everything that's been changed that we've done to the entire exercise. And now we are at the last piece, the final countdown. Merge the pull request.
Ooh, that purple.
And now let's see. Tell us, Mona. Did we do it right? Did we do it
Come on,
well?
Mona. Gotta get
Oh,
the sparkle fingers. Oh, hey.
so we this issue actually will close as soon as the action's done running, but it gives us a nice review of what we've done. Ask mode, there's the purple. And we have our congratulations as well at the bottom here with my little username. The other cool thing is when you finish one of these, you can share this with a peer, you can post it somewhere, do all sorts of stuff like that. But it gives a good review of what you've done, other courses, exercises you can take. And that's it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but I hope that was useful. That was walking through a GitHub skills exercise. Hope you guys didn't fall asleep on me.
Love it. Thank you, Ari, for sticking around and doing that extra piece for us. Appreciate that. We have a
Absolutely.
question in the campus program room that they're asking us about. Having students keep a local repository as well as online. That's kind of the point of Git, is having a local repo. And to your question, Randy, about recording, yeah, we're going to be sending out recordings of all the sessions from today for sure. But yeah, the point of Git is to be able to have the local repo. So students who want to work locally should, and that's a skill students should try and have anyway. And I have a section in my Learn with PJ site that is specifically about working locally. So let me find my Learn with PJ again real quick. But working locally, there's like this is an activity that you could do with your students inside your class to help them understand how to work locally. Working locally is harder because it's based on your machine. If it's Windows, if it's Linux, if it's Mac, those are all going to be kind of different experiences. But this is an activity that I created that's like how to work locally using VS Code, which is my editor of choice. Obviously Git, and GitHub Desktop, which is an app we create that makes it easier to work with repos. So to answer your question, Avni, yes. But I wonder, Avni, if you can hear me because it says on hold on your profile picture. I wonder if she wanted me to pop into the room. I'm going to pop into that room real quick and see if that answer was for nobody. So give me 1 second. I'll be back, folks, into this room in 1 second. There are folks in the chat who are here to help. If you have questions, you can still ask in the chat, but I'll be back in 1 second. I'm back. All right, let's check the chat. Awesome. Thank you, Skelly. Love it, love it. So we're here for questions from y'all. If you're working on anything, all you gotta do is let us know. There's only a few y'all left here, but I hope you're all enjoying what you're working on and you're finding the process nice and easy. But I am here if you need me. Just hit me up in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Oh, that's a great question, Danny. Preparing for future work, how much do you teach them to do on their own? How much do you teach them to do with Copilot? I think it's this is everyone's favorite answer. It depends. So I think that honestly, the underlying skills are still just important now. Uh, uh, if you the underlying skills of software building and of programming and of being a developer and all those things and writing code, all of those are still important because yes, Copilot is getting better and better and generative AI is getting better and better and the models keep improving. But one of the things that Ari was doing when he was showing off the Copilot skill is he can look and know kind of quickly. He's like, yeah, that's correct. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's good. But for a student, if they don't know what good code is supposed to look like and they don't know the expected architecture and the expected way of doing things, they're not going to really benefit from Copilot doing it for them. I liken it to any of you who ever had siblings or if you have multiple children when they play video games. The younger kid who can't quite beat a level and the older brother helps to do it. The younger kid doesn't really get to say like, "Oh, I beat the game." But when the older brother does it, the younger child can learn how to do it by watching and examining and taking part in it. So, okay, and they can use that to build the experience they need to eventually do it on their own. It's not a perfect analogy, but I argue that students shouldn't be using Copilot to build as much as they should be using it to learn. So we still need these skills. We still need someone who understands code and understands how this all gets built. But it's I don't know that there's a world where you're just handing everything off to Copilot. I think you hand off the right things to Copilot and it makes you able to iterate and work faster. So you need to know the underlying on your own. You need to be able to do it on your own a little bit, right? You need to understand how things connect and work. And then you also need to understand how to use the tool. So these are almost two separate skills. Knowing how to use AI and knowing how to write code are related in that Copilot can do it, but these are two separate skills that people who want to work in this field will need to have. You will need to know how to write code and you'll need to know how to use Copilot. So rather than how much do you teach them to do on their own, how much do you teach them to do with Copilot, you do both. Yes, the link to the repo containing the Copilot exercise. Let me grab that. This is the Getting Started with Copilot repo, and that came from the GitHub skills here in learn.github.com/skills. There we go. Yep. And like one of the things I actually do is when I talk to students about how to use Copilot, I have a presentation I've given before. Let me see if I can find that Copilot primer real quick. But I tell students ways that they can use um, generative AI in a way that actually helps their learning. So do it on your own and ask Copilot for feedback, or do it on your own and ask Copilot for advice on how to do it better, or ask it for comments. So let me real quick, let me share my screen once more. And this. So this is a slide that I do when I've taught students about Copilot. And let me share it here. This slide. So these are examples of ways that students can use Copilot that isn't just getting an answer, because most people, not just students, most people um, think of generative AI as ChatGPT, right? They were the first big news breaking thing to like break out in the general public as far as generative AI. Many people just say ChatGPT when they mean generative AI, but most people only know ask question, get answer. But there's a lot more that AI can do now, especially now that we're in a world of agentic stuff. So these are ways that students can do this. So writing comments for code that they wrote themselves. I suggest that they use guardrails in the prompt and telling it, hey, don't give me the answer, but ask me questions to help me understand, act like a tutor, and then you prompt on top of that. You can use it to check in on errors. Um, and you can use it to replace Google, although in a world where, we're in usage-based billing, that's probably not the best use of tokens. You should probably go back to using Google for that one. But these last two I kind of like as ways for student to use this to better their learning. The code runs, it's a homework assignment, but they're like wondering what they'll get as a grade. So they're like, pretend you're a professor and grade this assignment for me. If you're a student and you've got like the homework prompt or the assignment or whatever the task was that you were supposed to do, after you've finished writing all the code and you've got your answer, tell Copilot, hey, this is what I was told to do. This is what I made. Does this work? What do you think? And it gives you sort of like a grade, right? Another thing is additional work to check on your own understanding. So I imagine a thing like, hey, I just finished this assignment. Give me a project idea to take this into the real world. Or what should I go learn now that I just covered this in class? When I started learning to code in 2020, I was learning online on Codecademy. And Codecademy's great. It has all these little projects you can do and stuff. And I thought I was crushing it. And my friend who convinced me to get into tech, I was talking with him after it, and he goes, "All right, now you got to build something." And I was like, "Well, no, I've like been doing the work and stuff." He's like, "No, no, no, you got to build in the real world." And so one of the things that I've noticed back when I was an educator is there's a lot of students who come through school who think they can just go to class and they're going to be fine. Just go to class, don't do anything else. I just do the homework, do the test, I get my grade, and then I get a job after. Um, and what we all know is the ones who are taking their education into their own hands, and the ones that are doing extra to make sure they understand, and the ones that are doing more, especially with other people in communities, are the ones that are going to find success more easily. So telling students just doing the homework and the assignments might not be enough to make you truly understand the concepts, and it might not be enough to really give you the skills you need. Telling them, hey, take what you learned in class, give it to Copilot and be like, what do I do now? Or give me an idea for a project that I can build that helps me reinforce these ideas. And so you're using it almost as like a 24/7 TA in a way. And it's a TA that's never going to judge you for asking a stupid question, which there's no such thing as. But many students are nervous about feeling stupid, and so they don't want to ask these questions. So giving them a place where they can ask those questions is really powerful. So a couple of ways that I think students can use Copilot there. Sneakily, I also have ways for teachers to use Copilot. AI proof your assignments. So take an assignment you already have and say, hey, help me brainstorm ways to keep students from using AI. You can use it to make new lesson plans or to update your old lesson plans. I wrote this lesson plan or this assignment or this activity for Python, 2.1. Let's upgrade it for the next one. Or, oh, these dependencies are different now. I need to update this assignment. Help me update this assignment. You can have it write starter code for you, or broken code for some debugging. You can do it to give feedback on code to the students, but you can also have the students get the feedback themselves. There's some possibility for differentiated learning, creating different versions of tests, creating different styles of assignments that check the same thing. I used to give my students kind of options for how they could do an assignment. Be like, you can write a paper, or you can do a presentation, or you can do a video if you want to make a video. And I tried to give them different ways to express their understanding of the topic. Looking at a test and testing the test, and then making different types of tests too. So there's a lot of things beyond just ask question, get answer that you can use generative AI for, and a lot of that is in agentic mode and using things like Copilot CLI or the Copilot app and that other stuff. So that's a few things that I think could be useful for AI for students or for teachers.
One thing I wanted to throw in just as a plug for tomorrow. One of our sessions after the morning. So I'll do a quick run through of what tomorrow is going to look like as well for everyone when we join tomorrow morning. But we'll hear a little bit from a small working group that we had yesterday, that we held yesterday, that were really diving into like what CS curriculum even is in the world of AI and the AI era, and sort of like how it has to evolve, and how can teachers and educators build tools for themselves to help and to teach with in this new world. So it's going to be kind of addressing some of that. They're going to talk a little bit about what was discussed. Later on in the afternoon, though, you're going to hear not from us, but from Swift, who's the CEO of Major League Hacking. He is a great partner. He and MLH, they're great partners of ours, and they see how students are using generative AI in hackathons at universities all over the world. And so he's going to give you some really great perspective on like what's going on out there, what students are doing, and how students and educators can incorporate Copilot into some of these kind of common events, these events like hackathons, workflows, and some of the stuff that you're doing, that's including what PJ is talking about, some of the lesson planning or testing your test, or like creating, redoing old lesson plans and revamping stuff. Some of the stuff where you're just like, oh, I have to update this. Those are the really simple things that Copilot can be like, I can help you update that lesson plan, or I could help you update, some of the stuff that's out of date now, because they're going to be able to understand sort of really great ways to do that. But yes, I plus one to everything PJ said, but just also a plug for tomorrow that we're going to be hearing a lot from just like what other educators are doing, what some of the industry is doing as far as those hackathons are, and then Ari is going to give us a real deep dive into some more certifications and some of the developing with AI and agentic workflow modules that have been created from some of the new certifications. So really, really fun day tomorrow, and it's going to be awesome. That was my plug.
Your GitHub billing information, full name, but you have done it. Let me see. So let me see, Jen. I've done it. You know, fix it. So my issues, GitHub billing information, full name. Jen, if you email me, and I'm messing around at github.com. If you email me with your username, I'll pass this along to our team for verification and see if we can't help fix that. I think sometimes there's some tricky things with when we're reading documents, and sometimes the names can get a little tricky, but we're happy to help you and get this fixed for you if you are so interested.
And Randy, I know has a question here. PJ, I don't want to step over your toes, but I know I mentioned we're going to be doing some advanced stuff. A lot of what we're sharing today is relevant for high school too. I don't want it to sound like it's like not like that's a cop out or something, but like everything that PJ did this morning could be relevant to high school students. MLH, the MLH folks, they also do high school hack days, and we're working with them on that, specifically with like how do you do mini hackathons with Copilot with high school students. Like we're doing that with them right now. So there will be some use cases at the secondary school level also. But a lot of the stuff like with learning with PJ, a lot of the kind of just general things that we're talking about updating your lesson plan, some of the things that you could do from a project management standpoint, all applies, all applies. So it doesn't have to be like completely separate in that way. At least we don't think of it as separate. And a lot of students, you would be, I mean, we're always blown away. We work with a fabulous organization called Hack Club as well, and they work with teens across the world who are building the craziest, coolest stuff. That is as advanced as someone in university, truly. Like it is so impressive. So it really is porous. What I think is relevant for high school and secondary versus what is relevant for university. There in the working group, there also was kind of like some folks that are interrogating kind of the shifts in SCS curriculum at the master's level. So that I think that one is really different, but I think at the university and high school level, some of the stuff that we're talking about here, I think is just as relevant and should be adopted to secondary school as well.
Yeah, any of these activities that I have in the Learn with PJ website are you can just take it and use it in your class as long as your students have access and they have GitHub accounts. And again, I'm going to plug the teacher toolbox, which I just need like a text expander for at this point because I go to the teacher toolbox so often. But the teacher toolbox has like materials and stuff that can help you in deciding what to teach, how to teach it. And it's something that's a really, really valuable resource for you all. So let me grab that real quick for you. Like I said, super useful, full of a bunch of links that can help you with learning for yourself or coming up with ideas for your students as well. But yeah, all of it is something you can do in a high school classroom or a college classroom, depending on the level. I'm going to set up that text expander right now so I can just do like semicolon teacher, and it's the teacher toolbox.
I think the rooms are winding down. Here's Phoebe. She's back in here. um, Phoebe's, I think, back in from the other rooms. The rooms seem to be winding down. If there's no other, like kind of those really specific questions that can be answered over there, there's Phoebe's email address as well. And again, we can stay on for another about 5-10 minutes. But if there's nothing else for the breakout rooms, I might close them up. I'm not seeing too many folks go in there. Tomorrow, this will be the same link. One link to rule them all will be back at this same link tomorrow. Virtual room will open at 9 as usual, and the sessions will begin at 9:30. We'll get a welcome from Martin Woodward, our fabulous VP of developer relations here at GitHub. He's going to welcome us for the day. And then the first thing you'll hear is a bit of a readout recap of that working group, and then it'll flow into the rest of the sessions for the day. So yeah, same link, and we will see you all there tomorrow. But I'm going to close those rooms and leave us open for maybe like 5-10 more minutes, just in case if anyone else needs anything. But I'm closing up the rooms. Yes, we shared the schedule earlier. I'll share it again. The schedule is also in the teacher toolbox. So if you go to the teacher toolbox, the schedule is also in there, but I'm going to share it here again as well. That is the direct link to the schedule. And that's for all 3 days. So you'll be able to reference that throughout the week as well. All right, we're moving folks back into the main meeting. So yeah, take a look at that schedule for tomorrow. Again, same link. So you'll go back to that same joining link, which is still at the Luma page. And I sent an e-blast about it yesterday. And you can come back here if you want to copy the link before you leave. But yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. open, doors open at 9, and then sessions begin at 9:30 a.m. PST, Pacific time. Thank you all so much for these kind words and for having such engaging and wonderful questions. Thank you to Ari, PJ, Avni, and Phoebe for today. This is, again, as we've mentioned, our inaugural Educator Summit, and we're really delighted that y'all are here and participating. It means a lot for us to be able to help you in these ways. So yeah, we look forward to the rest of the week, and thank you all so much. I'm going to close this out. Bye, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.